Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for tonight, the 11th of March. Yes, it's only a few days' time now until I'm officially a 20-year-old. But that does mean that 19 going on 20 certainly means we have plenty of news to talk about in the month of March. I'm joined by late party supporter Zach Chambers for all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
So, guys, yes, we are on a slightly later time tonight, but we're still going to go through all of the news tonight because I feel like there is just so much to talk about with the hot headlines this week and about the news that unfortunately a man who was very close to many footballers across this country, football fans alike, will know Gary Lineker very, very well. Unfortunately, he has decided to cancel himself over a comment about the government's controversial, should I say, bill to stop migrants crossing the English Channel. Now, if you've seen videos this week, you'd have seen a video the other day posted by Nigel Farage, basically calling Gary Lineker a hypocrite after slamming the former England football player for his comments. Also, as well, many other people have criticised the BBC's actions. There's been a lot of pressure. Liberal Democrats have called on the BBC Director General to resign tonight. It's been all up in the air with Gary Lineker this week. I mean, for a start, should you be comparing the Conservative Party to, let me guess, 1930s Germany? Yes, you might remember what that was all those years ago when Adolf Hitler was in power. But does it give a right for Gary Lineker to use a comment like that? Not in my opinion, but I'm going to bring Zach in on this now. Now, Zach, when this news broke the other day, to be honest with you, it kind of shocked me given how much the BBC have kind of lost their interest in a lot of their presenters with impartiality rules.
Well, where do we start? I mean, it's been quite an extraordinary week for the very famous Gary Lineker. Yeah, it all kicked off when he made a comment about the new government policy on the new illegal immigration plan that they've got, where you basically, if you went to the UK illegally, you'd be detained, removed, then deported within a certain amount of time. And it was just it's a bit more complex than that, obviously, what the policy is. Now, Gary Lineker first tweeted out saying that it was a cruel policy. Then he then sort of said something, well, along the lines of the language the government itself been using, and compared it to 1930s Germany, which is, of course, as we know at the time, Nazi Germany. Now, there's a little bit of a distinction here. First of all, he didn't say the policy itself was 1930s Germany, but he did say what was 1930s Germany was the language that the government was using to promote their policy, the language around the immigration policy itself. Now that's two different things, because he's not calling the policy he's not calling the policy Nazism. He's calling the language that's being used Nazism. It still caused a bit of uproar, though. There was a lot of people that agreed. There was a lot of people that disagreed. And it appears that the people that have disagreed have won the argument on this one. I mean, it got the attention, first of all, I think, on the Mail. Then the Conservative MPs, who are most famously known for the ones being so obsessed about removing cancel culture, decided to get their cancel culture comments in early. Some of them calling him to be suspended, saying that why we pay a license fee for all this rubbish, la 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 la. He should be cancelled. BBC should suspend him. There should be an independent review. He shouldn't be paid. Why do we waste our license fee? La 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 la. All that things. Just so that, you know, at the time there was a bit of noise. Just a couple of days before yesterday, one source, the BBC, clearly wasn't well informed, said that he wasn't going to get a second or anything like that. He wasn't going to do the match of the day ahead as normal on Saturday. Well, it all changed in a bit of time, didn't it? Certainly as well. I mean, on the Friday, we found out that Gary Lineker had been was actually, the BBC released a statement saying that Gary Lineker decided to step back from his match of the day's duties as well. My phone is going completely wild. I'm just going to put that on mute. Yes, but he went back on. He was going to step back from his presenting duties on the match of the day. Then we turned out that what the BBC said was a bit inaccurate in its own right, because actually what was going to happen was that the BBC asked him to step back from presenting match of the day duties. So that was contradictory statement already. And then we get to the absolute the crisis which the BBC has found itself in, that they did not expect. We found out after Lineker had been pulled off the air for Match of the Day on Saturday, that Ian Wright announced that he was due to be a pundit on tonight, has refused to appear on solidarity behalf of Gary Lineker. And then a few hours later, we found that Ian Wright, I'm sorry, not Ian Wright, Alan Shearer said the same thing, would do the same thing, refuse to appear in solidarity with Gary Lineker. And then the tables kept turning over. We had the likes of Alex Scott come out saying he wouldn't replace Gary Lineker. Neither would Mark Chapman, neither Jason Mohammed or any other presenter. We basically said, no, I wouldn't do the same thing. We had Michael Richards, the Sky pundit as well, saying the same thing, that he would, if he was in that position, he would have refused to appear. We had Jermaine Genius say the same thing as well. And then the dominoes kept falling. Alex Scott announced on this morning that she would refuse to present Football Focused. Then so would Kelly Summers, who was also apparently replacing her that morning, also refused to appear as well. Then there was no Football Focus. Jason Mohammed, who was a presenter of BBC Final Score, also announced that he would refuse to appear. And even the commentators, the pundits for all those shows as well, announced they would refuse to appear as well. Yes, even the commentators that were due to commentate Match of the Day tonight also refusing to appear and refusing to turn up to work in solidarity for Match of the Day as well. So no presenters, no pundits, no commentators. It's everyone's deciding they don't want to do it. So what happens with Match of the Day tonight is actually airing. Final Score has not aired. Football Focus has not aired because of all the cancellations. 5 Live Sport has not aired today because, apart from the match commentators, the presenting before that, Mark Chapman refused to appear. He decided to not to appear. So Colin Murray as well, another presenter who's on the show Fighting Talk, decided not to appear as well. He quit. He decided to pull out today's episode as well. No addition of that. There was some 5 Live commentators that did have to decide to commentate, but just because it's a radio, and then they decided that it's a difficult decision for them. They decided to appear on reluctantly. So yeah, it's all combined into 1,000 pieces this weekend's BBC Sport coverage of the Premier League. It's absolutely combusted into 1,000 pieces. You must say as well. It appears that there's been little crisis management handled well by the BBC. They did not expect this coming. They thought that getting rid of Lineker for one night would solve the issue. It appears they failed to realise the situation and the mass quitting of pundits and presenters for BBC in the football division that they have. They did not anticipate that, and yeah, we're left in the situation where tonight there's going to be no presenter, no pundits, which sounds like some other shows, but also no commentators. So Match of the Day tonight at 10:20 is only 20 minutes long, and it's got no presenters, no pundits, no commentators. So we're going to have a bunch of goals being shown with no commentators, probably a little bit of music over that, and that's it. I mean, wow. On the thing itself, I think as well, I don't necessarily agree with what Gary Lineker said about comparing it. I wouldn't use the sort of thing that he said. But what the hypocrisy surrounds here, I think, as well, is that the same people that bang on about cancel culture, aka the Tories, are complaining about impartiality, for one. They don't even realise that impartiality also extends to their side as well. If they're going to bang on about impartiality, right, okay, on television, maybe the likes of Philip Davis, Esther McVeigh, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Nadine Dorris, Lee Anderson should not be hosting television shows in the name of impartiality. Maybe they should step down, stop presenting those shows. David Abbey, for that effect, should maybe stop presenting LBC. That could be another matter as well. If they're all going to bang on about impartiality, maybe they need to look at themselves in the mirror. And number two as well, the BBC say that this brought breached the impartiality guidelines and so forth. What about the fact that maybe they themselves need to look at themselves in the mirror? The Director General, Tim Davie, used to be a Conservative candidate. He used to chair the Fulham and Hammersmith Conservatives, chairman of the Fulham and Hammersmith Conservatives. Is there any? Did they overlook that when they appointed him to Director General? Oh, not a peep from the Conservatives then. And let's not forget as well, if we're going to bang about Gary Lineker being impartial, not ruining his political opinions, let's also forget as well that the BBC chairman, Richard Sharp, donated £800,000, gave an £800,000 loan to Boris Johnson. And was also a fan of Conservatives as well in the past. So the people that are banging on the top about BBC impartiality have no right to be lecturing us about free speech, their impartiality, code of conduct, when them themselves, by association, are guilty of the same thing. Let's take Andrew Neil, for example. Why has been the likes of Andrew Neil at the time of the BBC, when he was at the BBC, and why is the like of Lord Alan Sugar allowed to voice political opinions on Jeremy Corbyn, the Conservatives, all that sort of thing? Why is Andrew Neil allowed to chair the Spectator, a right-leaning magazine, whilst he's been the chief commentator and presenter for politics at the BBC? Why? And the same people that are bringing on about, the fact that they're boasting about Gary Lineker being removed by the BBC, have themselves complained about Conservatives being censored, all that sort of thing. They're happy to see a sort of a lefty censored and everything like that. But when it comes to their own side, it's absolutely fine. These people that bang about cancel culture, free speech, appear to be only one-sided on the aisle. This whole situation has been handled so badly. It could have been unavoided, okay? There needs to be many people that look themselves in the mirror, honestly, from the BBC to the Conservatives, to free speech warriors as well, that, bang on about free speech, and to the people that hate cancel culture, who seem to be in this situation promoting cancel culture. It's a mess all round. And it's been mishandled by the people that's been influenced by government, bureaucracy, departments and establishment figures as well. Mishandled by them. It's a mess that could have been avoided, and it didn't need to happen. Gary Lineker, I wouldn't have agreed what he said, but he has a right to say what he wants. But, is he a pundit? Is he a political pundit? No. He's a he's a sport pundit. He's not even a BBC employee. He's a freelance presenter. So, it baffles me, this decision. Honestly, it's no wonder why the UK got to talk about it, because it's one of the most watched football shows in the UK, and it ends up like this. It's a sad situation. And who knows what will we even see Match of the Day 2 air on tomorrow night? I mean, the other broadcasters are even taking a mock out of it. GB News are running their alternative Match of the Day tonight at 10 o'clock, with Mark Dolan and Patrick Christie's and a few non-so-football pundits, although they do like watching football. They can't even show anything. They're going to have to show a few pictures, and then they're going to have non-footballers discuss what's going to happen. And then tonight's 20 minutes. I'm not sure what the viewers wanted to watch anyway.
GB News I'm sure, that was all advertised on this morning's show, I believe, with Esther and Philip, I believe, when Mark Dolan done that interview about alternative Match of the Day. But yeah, it's one of those ones, Zach. I think that Gary Lineker's made a mock out of himself for it. I think it's a very, very interesting situation. I'm not going to comment what I make about it, but for me, it's going to cost a lot of money for the BBC to get rid of him. There's no question about it. But the other thing I wanted to talk about as well was the license fee issue Now, the license fee has been under a lot of scrutiny recently. Now, I believe a lot of people have been asking me, how much does it cost to actually to pay the BBC license fee? There is a lot of caveats to this. And I want to confirm with you guys that it is accounted to 71% of the BBC funding between 2021 and 2022. That is how much the BBC license fee costs. Now, I think it's £159 a year, according to a flat fee of £159. So that's a lot of money, especially for people that are like a lot older who are going to struggle a lot during this cost of living crisis to pay rent and bills. I mean, Zach, the future of the BBC license fee is now going to come into question after the removal of Gary Lineker from, theoretically, their lineup.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a legitimate question to ask about the BBC license fee, whether it's worth it these days or not, and whether we should move to different sorts of funding and all that sort of thing. It's a legitimate question. But at the end of the day, is license fee worth it? You know, just for match of the day? Yeah, of course. For programs like that, is it going to become worth it when we've had a situation like that today? No, not really. Not really at all. By this point, you know, if you're going to do stuff to the, you know, the BBC, to match the day and everything like that, and the license fee might as well become unworthy, you might as well have Jacob Rees-Mogg present match the day for one night, and for the next couple of weeks. It's basically what they want at the end of the day. But yeah, it's there's a legitimate question about the license fee. No, seriously, there is. Is it worth it? Is it worth what we're paying for, given the fact that BBC are cutting things most of the time because of efficiencies and savings that they're having to do as well? It makes it wonder, what is it worth it? I mean, yeah, we get service out of it, but like, do we need to be facing criminalization just because we don't pay the license fee? I mean, we pay for like Skype subscriptions, we pay for other subscriptions, everything is moving to digitalize as well. And there's going to be a point where the BBC license fee has not become worth it. So it's something to sort of consider in the future as well. But nevertheless, as I think, there's just more to go into it than the license fee. It funds the BBC as well. So it's important revenue. We need to find ways to fund the BBC. Whether the license fee is one of them in the future, who knows? I think it will be on borrowed times. But right now, it's important for many ways. I don't think we should be criminalised for not paying it for it as well. We get a service. We can pay for the services that we want. Not really. So we don't have to pay for Sky if you don't want to. We don't get criminalised for that. So I think it's fine, just get basic services. But as we move to a digital age, and the presenter and the presenting tactics change, and the way they deliver TV to us, it changes as well. Is it going to be worth it? I don't know. I don't think it will be.
Please comment down below, guys, what you make to the BBC licence fee and whether that should be either abolished or kept. Please let me know in the comments. That is the Charlie Tolhurst Show live on YouTube. Moving on now to some big news from the United States, and it is the turn of the Republican 2024 nomination race, still firmly wide open. We don't know whether Ron DeSantis is actually running, but we do know from what we're hearing that he'll probably will run. Donald Trump is definitely running. There's also another, I think the former South Carolina governor, I keep forgetting her name, but there's a female.
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley, yes. Nikki Haley, thank you, Zach. Donald Trump and Nikki Haley are both running. But Ron DeSantis this week has been boosting up his campaign for 2024 or potential 2024 presidential nomination by visiting Iowa this week. Iowa tonight, we can confirm that he was in Iowa where he slammed woke ideology in his latest speech as well. He's been ruling the Republican faithful in Iowa Friday ahead of the widely expected 2024 presidential nomination at a casino in Davenport in the east of the state where those caucuses will kick off next year's nomination series. The hard-right Florida governor wasted little time in reaching for the cultural messaging popular with the supporters back home. He says, "We'll never surrender to the woke wob," he said in a speech alongside Kim Reynolds, Iowa's Republican governor. our state is where the woke mob goes to die, as well. This news comes as Republican support for Donald Trump in Iowa, meanwhile, has taken a nosedive. A Des Moines Register poll found that while 69% said they would definitely vote for Trump in 2024 during the election, when last asked in June 2021, only 47% said they will. I mean, Zach, this week there has been a lot of news between both of these candidates doing big rallies in front of crowds, but it seems like at the moment, I mean, Trump might have the edge in the polls, but DeSantis is certainly not giving up without a fight.
Well, yeah, I think this race is going to be closer than some people imagine it so far. I mean, DeSantis is going very much leaning to the culture war sort of segment of the Republican Party, the sort of, the leftover Trumps that sort of, don't want like Trump, but don't want him to win and rather alternative instead. Ron DeSantis is one of them as well. Now, and Iowa it's a pretty common place for possible candidates to sort of go over and make their pitches to Republicans and donors of the future as well, and business people as well. And by the way, I should point out this: this is not just promotion for a rally, and everything like that, and political blueprint. This is promotion of Ron DeSantis' new book. He released a new book, The Courage to Be Free. Obviously talking about his time as Florida governor, and obviously politics today and all that sort of thing as well. 1,000 he spoke to on the Friday evening. He basically mentioned a load of cultural issues that have energized Republican voters, like on education. He talked about obviously educating kids, as well. And talk about having to talk about parents being able to go take their children to schools without certain genders being shoved down their throat. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, to be fair, like Ron DeSantis politicizes his own real, departments and everything like that, and education-wise, it feels like he's running his own political ideology by promoting some things and some not. But yeah, this is what gets the Republican base really started up in many ways as well. And he's obviously pitching, his accomplishments as well. And he's also banging on and talking about the fact that he flew migrants to other areas as well. He's obviously incredibly, he comes across a bit very performatively, communicationally smooth. But whether his issues are going to hold up in a general primary, who knows? I mean, I can't see an agenda where he bangs on about woke ideology half the time being a winning issue, when at the end of the day, the economy is going to be a big factor in 2024. Immigration is going to be a big factor, as well. I mean, like the actual presidency is going to be, up for grab as well. Crime is going to be a big issue and all that sort of thing. And the inflation may probably be disappearing by 2024. Who knows? Abortion rights may be up for debate as well. Voter rights. It's going to be a lot of things that are going to be up for debate. And whether he can lean into that, whether DeSantis can lean into some of that winning arguments, I don't know. If he bases his platform on woke ideology like Nikki Haley and all that sort of thing as well, then I can't see it being a winning issue. It's all good, people probably agree with most of the stuff from they lean right culturally, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the economy and how people's lives have been improved as well. It's going to be what really matters. So it might be a good use for the Republican base so far, but whether it will come across as ingenuous, I don't know. I can't really see it so far. I mean, half the time he comes across just as a grumpy old man, moaning about issues. Donald Trump is still the Republican favorite. I mean, in 2024, I don't know whether the public will really like that come 2024, but who knows? I think this is a tighter race than what some people expect so far in this Republican primary. And there's a few I bet there's a few that's still yet to declare. Larry Hogan isn't one that's not going to be running, despite speculation about his political future and all that sort of thing as well. We're still yet to hear from Mike Pence. We're still yet to hear from Pompeo on their plans as well. We could be a few others that run in the race as well. Chris Sununu I guess he's probably leaning towards not running at the moment, I guess, from his comments, but I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a small field, but whether it's going to be a suitable one, who knows? I don't expect Nikki Haley is going to get much of the vote. Tim Scott could be another that runs. He can't really get much of it. It'll be between Trump and DeSantis at the end of the day for the top two. But who they lean towards is going to be crucial in influencing the Republican opinion and who their nominee is going to be for 2024.
There's a lot in that news there that we can really say. We can go through in more detail as well. And I'm now going to play for you a short little report from ABC News, which explains Ron DeSantis' short clip of a speech that he made during his first trip to Iowa ahead of his potential 2024 nomination for Republican presidential nominee. Have a listen to this.
President back in this country on the Republican side in Iowa tonight, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declaring he's from the free state of Florida, he said. He didn't mention Donald Trump by name, but what he said clearly directed at the former president. Rachel Scott in Iowa.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis traveling to Iowa today for the first time and acting very much like a presidential candidate.
Good morning. I bring greetings from the free state of Florida.
DeSantis pitching Florida as a model for the country on issues like COVID, where he kept the state largely open.
I'm just proud to say that when during COVID the world lost its mind, when common sense suddenly became an uncommon virtue, the state of Florida stood as a refuge of sanity.
And on conservative social issues, declaring he stood up to, quote, the woke mob.
We've done things like eliminate critical race theory from our K-12 schools. We're not going to teach our kids to hate our country or to hate each other.
DeSantis never mentioned Donald Trump by name, but he did take one undeniable swipe at the former president.
There's no drama in our administration. There's no palace intrigue. We roll out and we execute and we do things and we get things done.
That message landing with voters like Rob Bonesock, a grandfather of 3, who told me some of Trump's behavior has been distracting.
When it really comes down to it, I just want to make sure that whoever we run can win. We really need to win.
Do you think that Governor Ron DeSantis could win the White House?
After today, I'm even more sure that he probably is the guy.
Other former Trump voters now on the fence.
We need the best candidate, not necessarily nothing against Donald Trump personally, but he's not the only horse in the race.
And so let's get right to Rachel Scott reporting in from Iowa tonight.
Thank you there to that little report from ABC News about the 2024 Republican presidential nomination race, which it seems like Ron DeSantis is going to run for the Republican nomination. There can only be one person that can go into that race, obviously a running mate if was successful for that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to win that race. But all I can say is we'll keep you updated on that news. Moving on now to some important news tonight, Conversation Corner tonight now. Well, we're going to be talking about an artist called Elton John, who, if you don't know Sir Elton John, you might not know him, guys, but a lot of us around the world know him because he was one of the most famous British singers that's ever lived. Obviously, he was born in Britain. He's currently, at the moment, as of age, 75 years old. But he has been known for creating many great hits, of course, Rocket Man being probably one of the most famous hits ever, as that was actually a film that was released a few years ago, which Taron Egerton starred in as well. But Elton John, yes, has released several songs over his lifetime as well. He is one of the best-selling artists of time, selling over 300 million records worldwide. He also had more than 50 top 40 UK single chart hits and US Billboard 100, including 9 number ones. He also paid a tribute to Princess Diana as well. He also released his debut album Empty Sky in 1969, from part of the Elton John Band, and released his first single early 70s, Your Song as well, started off as well. We also then done an album called Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which featured several songs on it as well. Elton John also done a performance with Live Aid with George Michael. That was also called Don't Let the Sun Go Down Me. And in general, has just been recognised as one of the greatest assets to the world of music, especially coming from the UK. I mean, Zach, Elton John certainly brings a lot of legacy into the world of music.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you say, it's, he's still standing. If you want to use that pun as well, but yeah, he's still standing. He's still going strong. He's done he's actually still been releasing albums only recently as well. 2021, he released the bit of remakes of his old songs. He released Cold Heart, that featured Dua Lipa as well, and on a Panu remix. As well of that, which was very interesting to hear as well. I mean, it's like getting to the modern day, sort of old school remixes that he's sort of done as well, just put into a modern classic and everything like that. But yes, his career span out to just before 1970, really. There's been so many songs that he's been most famous for. I'm Still Standing was the most famous one as well. Rocket Man. There's a lot of good references to that as well. You go, Don't Go Breaking My Heart. Can You Feel the Love? That actually features in The Lion King as well. He managed to get into that as well. He also released stuff like Little Genie. Also done some Christmas songs as well, would you believe it or not, as well. Sad songs, Saturday Night Live, and Guess That's What I Call It Blues. Candle in the Wind, which obviously, you remember, that was pretty famous one as well. I remember that was wasn't that, I think if I remember rightly, that was used I think at Princess Diana's funeral as well.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Interestingly.
Yeah, 90 it was used at Princess Diana's funeral, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And he sung that at the funeral there, and that was obviously very big for that as well. He also did a Freddie Mercury tribute, Bohemian Rhapsody, as well in 1992, and he did in 1993. They did Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me with obviously George Michael, obviously as well, incredible as well. It was so he's just had such a long, luxurious career. Still touring, still going strong. Obviously, he's more of a tamer guy than he was now and then as well. But as you know, he's just been phenomenal. He's been a British icon. He's stand up for gay rights and all that sort of thing as well. He's obviously got involved a little bit in politics as well, but he's sold over 300 million records worldwide, and he's one of the best selling artists of all time, really, to be fair. As well, still active as well, and still doing lots of good work and everything like that. And obviously he started out his album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I wonder if that's a reference to the Beatles there as well, in many ways as well. The Rocket Record Company as well. And it just the way he performs piano was just stunning. You can make a song out piano and just make it a masterpiece in many ways as well. But like look at all the stuff as well. Sacrifice Adia. He also appeared on Bill Elliott the musical, and he also celebrated his 60th birthday. Union to Wonderful Crazy Night as well. He was presenting the Grammys. He's also as well performing a tribute to George Michael when he died in 2017 as well. And he did his final. He's been doing his final, international tour called Farewell Yellow Brick Road and all that sort of thing as well. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he's he also been involved in it just recently for the documentary for If This World Could Sing, as well at recording studios at Abbey Road, which premiered in November 2022 as well. So he has a long, luxurious career, and he's just been simply outstanding in his musical career as well. Promoting equalities, helping those with AIDS, obviously campaigning on that, preventing AIDS. He's just been inside and outside music. He's been a sensation to life, and he's still got a bit of ounce in him as well, which is obviously really important as well. So yeah, it's just been sensational watching him creating music that's just been so ironic to everyone these days, and remember by those in the 60s and 70s. And as well from beyond, young and old. So, yeah, keep going, Elton, because he's still got a bit of life in him.
And the film as well, don't forget Rocket Man, the film. That's a big release. That was a big release back in 2018, 2019. I mean, Zach, it was a clear remake of a classic of a classic artist like Elton John. I bet something like Taron Egerton must have had to put a lot of hours into rehearsing a lot of them scripts, and especially a lot of them songs that he had to perform in the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously all that effort as well. It's for Egerton. She did so much of that, obviously script work as well, and obviously into that film and everything. And Elton John's help was obviously worth it. All the performances they've done as well. You have to realise that all these performances take a lot of scripting as well. They obviously add to the production as well. They even cost money, all these sort of things. So they actually put all this effort in as well. And obviously what Elton did as well, in sensational. It was good stuff, and it was just great to listen to him sing, watching it as well. And fair play to Tara Edgerton and the scripting crew for doing all they did as well, because it just made it a magical thing.
Yeah, and we're also going to not forget as well, you might remember, was it 2021? Of course, Elton John did collaborate with Ed Sheeran for a Christmas song called Merry Christmas, which you can all listen to on YouTube. I know it's an annual song, but I mean, Zach, when he done that song with Ed Sheeran, I think a lot of people kind of knew exactly that he was still, considering he was getting on, he was still loving making music.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously as people get older and everything like that, they sort of start to wind down a little bit as well. But no, he still kept going really well. He still remade classics and everything like that as well. And he's remade his old classics and everything like that into modern day sort of songs. As you said as well, he did a Christmas song with Ed Sheeran as well. And so, yeah, he's still very active in the music industry, even if he's not like the big hitter than he was, like, obviously 20, 30, 40 years ago. He still creates brilliant music, and, and he's still going strong. And that's what makes him popular. And those that, wind down a little bit, but still go strong, is the respected industry. And I'm sure when one day when he sadly goes from this planet, he will be, remembered for a lot of good things that he's done, and all the performances around the songs that he's made as well.
Yeah, he's such an iconic artist, Elton John is. We'll always remember him for what he done over the years. Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King as well, a big Disney hit, which has made the film so special, honestly. So even the best singers in the world can still make their appearances in films. We saw that with Freddie Mercury and Rami Malek. So, yeah, certainly very, very interesting there. But that's all on the conversation corner. So we're now going to go and have a look at the latest sports news now. Not with talking about Gary Lineker. We will make our match of the day, football punditry, very clear for you tonight when we go over today's football results. Right, now let's have a look exactly what matches went on today. I know there was a rugby match. There was actually some Premier League fixtures on today, which we can confirm to you. We will go over for them right now. Here are the results. And in a couple of shocks today, Bournemouth beat Liverpool 1-0. In that first result, Everton beat Brentford 1-0 as well. Then we had a 2-2 draw between Leeds and Brighton. Chelsea 3, Leicester City 1. Tottenham Hotspur finally got a win against Nottingham Forest, 3-1. And Manchester City winning in the later kickoff, 1-0 against Crystal Palace. Zach, what do you make of the latest football results?
Yes, obviously there's not much match today tonight. There will be the goals and everything. There'll be much more the punditry, but I can obviously give you as much punditry I can on today's matches. Well away, which is match day 27 out of 38 as well. I mean, getting close to the end of the season, all that sort of thing. But first of all, Bournemouth 1, Liverpool 0. That was a bit of a shock result today. Philip Billing was the one that scored in the 28th minute as well. I mean, Liverpool, we took a look at the possession and everything like that. Liverpool most possession. Bournemouth only 5 shots and only 2 on target, but one of them was enough to score a goal as well. Liverpool had most of the chances and opportunities, but they couldn't. They just wasted all of them as well. Mo Salah missed a penalty as well, I should point out as well. It was given a penalty and then had the most spectacular miss, I have to say, that you probably would have seen for quite a long time as well. Completely missed the penalty. Could have gone 1-1. But honestly, it was a shock of a penalty as well, to be fair. Bad penalty as well. Leeds 2, Brighton 2. That was a bit of a interesting match in many ways as well. Alexa McAllister, 33rd minute. Patrick Bamford also scored as well. And then a goal by Jack Harrison meant that Leeds went 2-1 up as well. But then redeemed as Jack Harrison decided to redeem himself by putting it 2-2 as well. So it was a pretty much a close match as well, with lots of shots, lots of shots and targets, everything like that as well. Close match between the two of them. Everton beating Brentford 1-0. Everton are working their way slowly out of the relegation zone. This is a crucial victory of Dwight McGill with an early opportunity in the very first minute. You have to say as well. Beating Brentford as well, a very, very important win for Everton as well. Not obviously Brentford's been on a good run recently. That will also be a disappointing result today, but I'm sure they will only take that loss as well. With only 1-0 loss, I think they'll take it anyway. And the other match as well, Leicester 1, Chelsea 3. Patterson, Ben Chilwell managed to score in the 11th minute to the sound of boos from former Leicester fans. By the way, Ben Chilwell used to actually play for Leicester. Then it was Patterson Daka on the 39th minute, and then Kai Havertz the 51st minute of the first half. Kovacic in the 78th minute, and then Wout Faes as well. The 87th minute got a red card as well, which means a second yellow should point out. So he'll be lit in next match. And Tottenham 3, Nottingham Forest 1. Tottenham have been a bit on shaking ground recently, knocked out in the Champions League midway through the week. Harry Kane got 2 goals, and Heung-min Son as well. 62nd minute as well, redeeming his season a little bit with a goal there. Joe Royal was the other one, in scored the 81st minute. Not enough for Notts, though. And then Man City, Crystal Palace, Man City was Man City winning by 1-0. Crystal Palace actually kept them holding on their knees, and then the penalty from the Haaland as well in the 78th minute as well. A costly penalty, I think, to give away for Palace, which means they're struggling. They've got no wins so far in 2023. No wins so far for them. Look, defeats in the last 2. They're 12th in the league. I don't think they're relegation threat at the moment, but I have to say, what's one to keep an eye out for with Palace are struggling as well, I have to say as well. And so tomorrow, there will be 4 matches, I should say, as well. Whether match of the day will be on tomorrow, we'll have to see. It'll be interesting. I'd hope so, even if it means goals only. But yeah, it will be Man United, Southampton at 2, West Ham, Aston Villa at 2, Fulham, Arsenal at 2, and then the 4:30 games, Newcastle, Wolves as well. There's 2 matches midweek as well. They're rescheduled. Southampton, Brentford, and Brighton Palace, and there's Champions League as well, featuring Manchester United, City, and RB Leipzig, Real Madrid, and Liverpool. As well, and Man United and Arsenal again, second leg of their ties as well next week. And there's FA Cup matches next week as well. I should point out as well, beginning on the Saturday with Man City against Burnley on Saturday 18th as well.
Loads of football. We'll keep you updated with all that news in the coming days. Moving on now to the next part of the sport briefing, we are going to talk all about the Formula One news now. I can confirm to you guys that last week's winner was Red Bull's Max Verstappen. If you watched the Full Throttle with Charlie, that's my other YouTube channel, which you can go and check out. That will give you the whole list of the latest motorsport news that I'll mention. But we're going to mention Formula One on the show because it is part of my show's programming as well. That's also the other channel is for other motorsport content as well. But yes, last week's winner was Max Verstappen of Red Bull. Fernando Alonso finishing a great third for Aston Martin in that race. But Zach, interestingly, some other Formula One news emerging with Kimi Räikkönen and Jenson Button going to NASCAR for potentially a start at COTA.
Yes, Kimi Räikkönen is going to be doing a few races this season. Starting at COTA as well. Kimi Räikkönen's done NASCAR before, I should point out as well. It'd be good to see him back in the motorsport as well. So he will be making a race start at COTA. Another name that's also going to be starting and also going to be racing at 3 road course races this season as well is Jenson Button. He will be racing at a Road America as well, Watkins Glen. I think Sonoma as well, potentially. as well. But yeah, JB, Kimi Raikkonen, it feels like an F1 reunion as well for all these drivers. But yeah, big deal as well. By the way, JB's also going to be racing at Le Mans 24 Hours on behalf of a NASCAR team as well. That's going to be doing their own kart. They're doing their air entry there as well, which is going to be fascinating to see. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting and fascinating move by JB himself to actually get into a NASCAR deal as well. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he does. He'll have to qualify his way in as well, because there's only a 40 car capacity grid and there could be more than that by the time we get to these road course races. But it's fascinating as well. Raikkonen, Button, what a good set of what a good set of drivers to make their way and return their way to the stock car and get back into motorsport and all that sort of thing as well. So yeah, I mean, it's good to see that happen as well. We obviously had the F1 last weekend. We saw Max Verstappen win, Charles Leclerc retiring problems, Oscar Piastri out as well, unfortunately, as well. But it's pretty the typical dominance you expect as well. Verstappen winning the race as well. I mean, in a pretty dominant fashion as well. I think in many ways it was just dominant as well. It was Red Bull 1-2, Max 7, Perez, Fernando Alonso, the driver of the race for me as well, 3rd position. Carlos Sainz 4th. I mean, Ferrari off the pace a little bit, so it's salvaging.
I think Mercedes were the biggest shot, weren't they? Because they were only 5th and 7th.
Yeah, they've admitted themselves that this is going to be probably a developmental season for them. They're going to struggle. Lance Stroll 6th, good result for him after breaking his hands, all that sort of thing, and the toe. Russell 7th, Bottas 8th, good result for him. Pierre Gasly 9th from 20th position on the grid, 20th to 9th. Great first race for Pierre Gasly at Alpine. Alex Albon getting a point for winners. I'm very pleased for that. Snowden was 11th. Logan Sargent, I think, had a good race, 12th position as well. Kevin Magnussen 13th, De Vries 14th, Hulkenberg 15th, Guanyu Zhou 16th. Lando Norris was a terrible race, having all sorts of engine issues as well, having to come into the pits. And the retirees was Esteban Ocon, who just got penalty after penalty after penalty. Charles Leclerc with that engine issue, and Oscar Piastri, who also had issues as well, and had no drive. Shame for him on his first race. It can be turned around into next week. We're going to go to Saudi Arabia. Probably one of the fastest circuits on the calendar. Well, will be until we get to Las Vegas, basically. That'll be as well. But that's later in the season. Saudi Arabia is next as well. And I'm going to get to NASCAR as well, because that's on this weekend as well.
It's the so last week we had the Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube, which I'll go over the results for you now quickly. William Byron won that race after leading majority of the race. Carl Larson was 2nd. And Alex Bowman was 3rd, completing a Hendrick Motorsports 1-2-3. Bubba Wallace was 4th in the first of Toyota Camaries, the number 23 Toyota there. Christopher Bell, was 5th in the number 20 Toyota. The 2022 Daytona 500 winner, Austin Cindric, was 6th. Martin Truex Jr. was 7th, despite having a late charge towards the end of the race, but which ultimately fouled. Justin Haley was 8th. Kevin Harvick was 9th. And Daniel Suarez completed the top 10 in that race.
Yeah, that was the results there. I mean, it was pretty an interesting race, I have to say, as well. In many ways, there was a few incidents down there. Pretty quite race, I suppose. William Byron obviously getting that victory as well. There's a few good good results for a few drivers as well. The ones that obviously did not finish was like Joe Logano, who really had a horrible race, really, to be fair, as well. And then you had the likes of Corey LaJoie retiring at the end as well. The Ty Dillon as well. There was a few obviously Cody Ware, Austin Dillon all struggling in that race as well. But yeah, William Byron with good reception results for him as well. This weekend is the Rough Mortgage 500. I mean, the qualifying for that, it was Kyle Larson's on pole for that. Denny Hamlin was 2nd. Last week, William Byron 3rd. Brad Keselowski 4th. Christopher 5th. Ross Chastain 6th. Michael McDowell 7th. Blaney 8th. Kyle Busch 9th. And Eric Jones in 10th position. I have to say, it's not a bad set of results for there as well. The Xfinity race is also underway now. United Rentals 200. Lap 46. Justin Allgaier is leading that at the moment, ahead of Sam and Sam Creed's as well, and Sammy Smith is third as well. Oh, actually, that's just changed whilst I've just been. Oh, hang on, yeah, that's just changed whilst I've just been here as well. I'm just going to refresh that. Yeah, it's changed as well. Fourth Ryan, he beats Daniel Hemmick. Fifth, Cole Costa sixth, Carl Bush seventh, Sam Mayer eighth, Joe Nemechek ninth, and Christopher Smith in 10th. 10th as well. So that's the Xfinity race as well. Camping World is off until the next week. I should point out, are they off until next week? They'll be back at Atlanta, and so will the Cup Series when they go as well. They'll be at Atlanta as well for the Fold of Honor Quick Trip 500 as well on the Sunday, I believe. NASCAR, yeah. So, and also it'll be the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Craftsman Truck Series will all be in action next week as well. So all three national series will be in action next week.
Plenty of NASCAR news will be coming up on the show as planned. Moving on now to Charlie's Good News, a slightly different Charlie's Good News this week, because I'm not talking about business news regarding to The Apprentice this week. That will be coming next week to you when we round up the interview stage as well. I can confirm that I haven't watched the show yet, but I can tell you what happened. It was pretty... Actually, we will go for The Apprentice whilst we're here, actually. I'll do a quick little roundup on it. I haven't watched the show, Zach, but from what I understand, it's an all-ladies final.
Yeah, absolutely. It is indeed an all-ladies final. The last remaining men are gone. Absolute gone. It's the series has been ruled with the girls as well. It's Simba. Simba is out of the series after screwing up on the task. So the task this week, oh wow, where is it? There we go. So yeah, so this episode, Victoria joined Infinity after the team lost both Bradley and Avi as well. Then this one's dog food, so I should point out as well, this one's making dog food. Megan left on it, stepped up, and Apex decided to make a dog food for insects. Yuck, that actually sounds disgusting, doesn't it? And Alvin as well, although she instructed Simba and Danny to not shout about it when designing the packaging, which unsurprisingly resulted in mixed messaging as well. Victoria considered going for insect protection for their product. They decided going for gourmet food. Rochelle went off the kitchen to come up with concatenation with Victoria May designers chef Barking brand. Well, okay, a lot of dog references in that as well. But yeah, I mean, it was all they also ended up pitching to Waitrose, the team that received unfavorable feedback as well. It was Apex about the packaging, the product detection, the fact the formula was made in potato and gravy. As for Infinity, the Waitrose wasn't convinced that Chief Barking was a premium dog food brand due to low amount of meat in the product, and questioned why they claimed it had been designed by dogs. And it very much hasn't. I mean, there could be a few dogs on the teams. I mean, yeah, that'd be a bit rude to the women on there, but yeah, it was designed by humans. I can understand how really silly that sounds. Pets at Home also, they picked Pets at Home. It wasn't impressive either brand, but Pro Paw more so. Well, the one panel described the form as messy and wet. That's what dogs do, to be fair, as well. Lord Sugar broke down its performance. It was Affinity that ended up the top receiving 1,000 orders, and another week goes by where 0 orders were done for Pro as well. That's incredible. Another week where a team gets 0 orders, and that was Apex, unfortunately. Simba, Danny, and Megan as well. Megan was under clean instructions. Danny poor listening skills. Simba doesn't say anything worth listening to as well. And it was Simba that one decided to go. And all we have left is girl power. All the remaining contestants are all girls. And next week is the big one, because we're going to do its interview week. It's the semi-final of the competition. It's going to the interview stage. All the candidates will be scrutinized by all the individual all the individual business leaders and their mentors as well. Karen's, I think, is part of the process for the first time, I should point out as well, part of interviewing the process. Claude is back as well. And then we've got the two other ladies and gentlemen, I can't remember their names as well, but they're going to be part of the interviewing process.
Linda
But yes,
Plum
it's scrutinising
is one of them.
Yeah, but it's going to be, they're going to be part of the interviewing process, scrutinising every decision, every little bit of their business plan that they've got, why they want to invest, in every little mistake that will be cut out, every little thing will be seen. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a brutal week next week, and I believe to the point where only a few are going to make their way through to the final. As well, I believe 3 of them get fired. I believe
Yeah, 3 get fired. Yeah,
3 of them will get fired, and it'll be left with 2 remaining going to the final week as well.
Be plenty of that, guys. Plenty of that to sure for you to come up. The Apprentice will be back on next week, and I'll be certainly tuning in to watch it very, very soon indeed. I bet that dog food task was very messy indeed. But quickly now on Charlie's good news, I want to mention about some UK theme park additions coming in 2023. Because as you can tell, guys, I'm actually a theme park enthusiast myself. I have got a little job at the moment as well, working in an amusement park for now, Adventure Island. So I'm just going to quickly go over exactly what is happening in the theme park industry right now. It has been confirmed that on the 18th of March, which is what the theme park most theme park amusement parks will open in the UK, Alton Towers will announce the official opening of The Curse at the Alton Manor. And this is a new dark ride rethemed from Jewel the Haunted House Strikes Back. Alton Towers are keeping ride details, including the backstory of the manor's sinister past under wraps now. However, it's said to be a haunting ride which will frighten and excite both brave young adults and youngsters. It will take them on a hair-raising journey through the spectacular twists and turns of the Cursed Manor. Very, very interesting in that respect. As well, Legoland Windsor have also announced that the UK's first Lego build and Ferrari build and race will make its debut in 2023. It's going to feature life-size Lego Ferrari models, which will be like the 430, the 458, 488, GTB, etc. Some Ferrari cars I know. It will be an ultimate build and race experience, putting the guests in the driver's seat. Lego Ferrari build and race will feature 3 interactive zones: build a race, a Ferrari Lego model, and a Duplo build zone. Young racers can make their way through the garage and racetrack to build, test, and digitally scan their own Lego Ferrari model on the interactive racetrack. Guests will experience Ferrari fun facts, race history, racing gear, and awards before other cars the fastest race lap on the world famous Pista di Fiorano circuit. A Duplo build zone will also offer younger guests the chance to drive an imagination their own cars, creation for bigger tracks. I have to say, this is a brilliant initiative. It was obviously announced for California in 2022 when it opened, but coming to Britain, I'm actually really excited for this. This is going to be a cool addition. As well, Thorpe Park have also announced the opening of Ghost Train. That's going to be rethemed from Darren Brown's Ghost Train, which will be opening in 2023. And finally, a new B&M family launched wing shuttle coaster. Yes, Bollinger and Mabillard is a roller coaster company, manufactures so many roller coasters, wing coasters over in like Holiday World, Thunderbird, The Incredible Hulk at Universal, Islands of Adventure, to all those people who love Orlando. This is going to be Mandrill Mayhem coming to the world of Jumanji at Chessington World Adventures. You will see the famous footsteps of Dr. Bravestone pass through a whole world of adventures located on the Jaguar's Eye Jewel. Lift the curse to save the Jumanji. Wow. I mean, God, 20 years ago since Chessington added the last roller coaster. It was Dragon's Fury back in 2004. I mean, looking at this, absolutely brilliant. Couple of other supporting flat rides. You've got Mamba Strike there as well, which is an SBF Visa wrap ride, I think, as well. You also got this Ostrich Stampede as well, which looks very interesting. I wonder what that's like. And there's also going to be Jumanji-themed bedrooms coming to the Safari Hotel as well, which I have to say, looking at that, they look pretty cool. If you like the world, if you've ever watched Jumanji starring Robin Williams, I bet a lot of people will be very interested in it. Zach, what do you make so far to the latest theme park additions this year?
Whew, a lot of them, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot. I mean, they get more creative every week with their theme parks, and you know, to their audience and all that sort of thing as well. It's obviously really important that they do that as well. But I also want to talk about as well that if you're a fan of go-karting as well, I know this may not be relevant in some way because obviously, you know, if you're a fan of go-karting, there's now in sort of like F1 related stuff, they're now building a go-kart stadium under the Tottenham Hotspur ground. So you may have seen this in the news last week. Well, they're doing a go-kart thing under the Tottenham Hotspur thing as part of a deal agreed with F1, which is interesting. But yeah, the theme parks is they're getting creative. They're adapting their audience very well. And there's obviously got a lot of young people go to these theme parks and tourist parks. So yeah, all these changes are all really, really good, I have to say as well.
Plenty of news for that, I'm sure. And the Tottenham Hotspur thing looks really cool. I hope that Formula One's partnership can actually do them a world of justice, I'm sure as well. But moving on now to press preview, where we round up all the latest newspaper reports. I'm sure most of them are probably going to be all Gary Lineker based. So
oh, yeah, they are.
Right now, here we go.
Look
the
at them.
Times has gone with Gary Lineker. Gary Lineker chaos piles of pressure on the BBC chief as well. Sunday People goes, BBC begs Gary to come back. The Mirror goes, Lineker, I'll never be silenced. Prime Minister hits back at Lineker storm. That's Rishi Sunak. The Sunday Telegraph goes with the Gary Lineker story. The Observer goes with the Gary Lineker story. BBC in crisis. Gary Lineker goes off.
Gary Lineker. There's only one subject.
And the Sunday Express, it goes with BBC Sport Blackout. All Gary Lineker papers, pretty much.
And they're all Gary Lineker. Let's start. Can we all start?
All the headlines
of each one. I mean, let's do the Sunday Times. So this is obviously, you know, Gary Lineker. Day Arcade's staff refused to work. Chairman faces fresh call to resign. Now, Tim Davies giving a little bit of an interview with obviously the BBC. We had extraordinary developments today where the BBC asked the BBC for an interview, which is actually stunning itself. And they got Tim Davies, the Director General, who's been actually, funny enough, out in America. Yesterday he was out in the UK. Today he's out in America, funny enough. And there was an American journalist on hand to do an interview with him as well. A few bits of question there. He defended a little bit of actions. He sort of opened the door a little bit, I suppose, but he was, you know, he's a bit of a hypocrite as well, because he says he's very much open for free speech and all that sort of thing. Well, not really. But he was also built on impartiality and all that sort of thing as well. I don't know, really, quite frankly. I don't know whether I believe him or not. I do not believe him at all, given the fact that we've had too many impartiality issues in the past, really, as well. The Sunday People really goes for BBC begs Gary to come back. I got the impression that from that Tim Davies interview as well, from the Sunday People, that the BBC obviously do want him back. The BBC are in a difficult situation with, you know, with what's happened today and all that sort of thing, and the day before. This is not just about Gary Lineker. This is about the whole, you know, production team, the sports department all walking out as well. And that sort of leads me to, you know, what the Sunday Mirror have got. And Lineker, I will never be silenced. You know, after the you know, the backlash over the Gary Lineker's tweets and everything like that as well. He actually then started tweeting again, saying that, you know, he will continue to speak out on these issues as well. And that he was obviously going for a chat to the BBC about everything as well. They've also had an interview with his son as well, I believe, who attended the match today. Lineker, by the way, just in case you're wondering, did actually attend the Leicester-Chelsea match today. Just for out of curiosity as well. Obviously, he spent the day not being on air, deciding to go to the Leicester match instead as well. The son has said, he tells us his dad's hurt to tweet around, he'll eat cottage pie instead of watching match today, which is obviously a fair play to him as well. And his son is basically saying that he won't back, you know, his dad won't back down. He'll continue making his opinions, obviously, in campaign on refugee issues as well. Now, obviously, the BBC will obviously want to dispute that, and obviously, you know, given their so-called impartiality rules, it's going to be, I think it's going to be messy. Is there a way through from this? Maybe. As well. Now, even the Prime Minister has talked about all this today. the Prime Minister himself has weighed in. The Daily Mail goes on. Daily Mail on the Mail on Sunday goes on that. An astonishing staff mutiny rips up TV and radio show. Please the day unprecedented drama of the BBC. PM hits back Lineker storm. The Prime Minister's statement didn't really say much, I must say. He sort of stayed out a little bit out of it as well. He obviously praised Gary Lineker as a good presenter. But he also defended his policy, obviously on obviously his new legal migration bill. Excuse me, as well. He obviously defended his actions. He also thinks that the policy is taken as the right one as well. Keir Starmer has actually spoken out as saying that has actually hit out the BBC's decision, by the way, saying that it was motivated by Tory opinions and all that sort of thing, Tory MPs, and is saying that the BBC decision was not impartiality. And that they should reconsider the decision as well, which I have to say is quite extraordinary for the Labour Party to come out of that as well. Well, the Mail's comment based among those who are going to sport, there must be millions of different on migration who speak them who must be by loot blistering posturing. Well, that's the Mail. If it was a lefty one, another right-wing opinionated one, they'll be fine with it, to be fair. As well. The Sunday Telegraph runs on the BBC Boss's interview as well. Corporation football coverage in meltdown on sport prevented pundits walk out in support of Lineker. As well. Yeah, it's been a complete walk out as well. The Zerba goes with the same thing. Lineker Ralph threatens to topple BBC chiefs and hit his silent plan. Chair and Director General Kate's call to resign as well. I'm very interested to see what happens as well. What happens, because next week there's FA Cup live actual FA Cup football. Now someone's obviously got to present that. They're going to have to show that live. Who presents it? Are they going to even have a presenter? Are they going to have commentators? Who knows? It'll be quite the situation if they don't have commentators or presenters. They're all just going to be watching a silent match for the next 45 minutes or something like that, 90 minutes or so for the two games that they show next week. I mean, bloody hell, if that ends up like that, then I don't think I can watch a football match. It'd be silent. I hope that doesn't happen, but it could still happen in any ways as well. Sunday Express, BBC Sport blackout, Lineker's allies force football off TV and radio. As we've seen today as well, Football Focus was cancelled, Final Score was cancelled, 6:06 on the radio was cancelled. The finalised sports precedes the live match has also got called off as well. In many ways, it's just been, and we don't know whether match today 2 is going to go ahead tomorrow in its usual format, whether it's going to be commentary only or no commentators at all. We don't know what's going to happen there as well. Looking at analyze force football off TV and radio, obviously no live scores as well. And the Daily Star sums it off as well. Off. Football Focus cancelled. Final Score cancelled. Radio 5 Live Footy cancelled. Player interviews cancelled because obviously the players refused to even speak to the BBC as well. Which was itself an extraordinary development. I mean, the Players Football Association said that if they were going to refuse to speak to the BBC, then the players could potentially be fined. So the PFA would cover the costs for the players as well. Off. I'm disappointed in the Daily Star actually because there was no red card references. If they did a red card reference, then this might work a little reference. I mean, it's good enough as it is, but it's just one page as well. But I think a few extra red card references probably would have gone well on that as well. But yeah, that's the Sunday papers for tomorrow. As you expect, the lead story is Gary, BBC. All the front pages for tomorrow is just Gary Lineker. I have not seen so many front pages dedicated to this issue for quite a while. I mean, one subject is quite stunning, really, isn't it? As well. But yeah, that's the papers for tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you knew it was the top story, wasn't it? And yeah, I mean, It was absolutely inevitable that all of the papers were going to be themed to Gary Lineker. So yes, in fact, as well. Now it's time for the heroes and the villains of the week. My heroes this week go to, if anyone has been listening, it was International Women's Day this week. So I wanted to give the nomination to some people who took part in what we call the International Women's Day Sunrise Swim this week as well. Many people braving the cold weather, some of the freezing cold weather we've had this week. as well. Hundreds of people took part in the dip for the 4th to mark International Women's Day, organised called of the official event due to sub-zero temperatures, but that did not deter those who turned up to plunge regardless. Money raised at the event at Portobello Pitch, Edinburgh, is donated to Charity Women's Day this year. Sees the charity set out 50th anniversary of the organisation's Edinburgh branch. Here's the people here taking part in the event. Oh, wow. They were so brave. Honestly, look at these people here just taking part in that swim. I just want to say to everyone who took part in that swim, you're going to get a nomination, because I have to say it is a great event to raise money for charity. And I think certainly we want people to understand exactly what International Women's Day is. It's such an important event. I mean, really mean it. And I've got 2 villains this week. A number 1 villain is going to be Gary Lineker for that crazy comment about the migrant crisis. I've actually got 3 nominations, believe it or not. I've got another one. Number 2 is Vladimir Putin for unleashing 80 missiles into Ukraine the other day. One of which I think hit Zaporizhzhia, which about 9 people died in a missile strike in Ukraine just the other day. A horrendous war crime being committed by Russia again. And my 3rd nomination, well, to be honest with you, this week it's been in the news again. The 3rd nomination is going to go to Matt Hancock for basically continuing to send these crazy messages suggesting that the public were meant to be given a Brexit variant, or basically a variant that was used to scare the public. There were my nominations there for the heroes and the villains. Zach, what are your nominations this week for the heroes and the villains?
Right. So, heroes this week. The hero for me is going to be it's a bit of a different one. I'm going to give it to Ariel Free. If you don't know who Ariel Free is, she is a radio D-Day as on Radio 1, early mornings, Monday to Thursday mornings. She did a task for Red Nose Day, which is coming up, by the way, I think next week.
Next week.
I'm saying as well. She did a cycling challenge as well. She went across many places for 5 days, DJing on a bike whilst travelling across North and Scotland as well. On Sunday, the 5th of March, she did regain a Comic Relief Challenge. Her Tour de Dance, as she called it, cycling 50 hours across 5 cities in 5 days, all on a 10-person bike, complete with DJ decks as well. She has completed the task. Started out in York, all the way from Leeds to Sheffield to Manchester to Liverpool as well. Obviously, in cold conditions as well, she did a fantastic job. And she raised £500,000 for Comic Relief. Incredible job. DJing, cycling, and all the support as well. It's a great job by her and everything. Ariel Free is here this week as well. The villains, well, it's an easy one for this week. The BBC are the ones they're going to give as well for the villain of the week, for their pandering to Tory idiots, their own hypocrisy on impartiality, everything like that, and the absolute disgraceful treatment of Gary Lineker and the fallout from that as well, which they did not seem to come as well. Well, they have landed themselves with a big old mess, and where they go from there onwards, who knows? The BBC, the villain for this, me for this week. The hero goes to Ariel Free as well.
Well, there's plenty of that I can say regarding the BBC this week. Incompetent impartiality rules. Certainly, in my opinion, they need to look themselves in the eye, I think, and take a step back. Honestly. Maybe Ofcom will get involved. I don't know. But that's all I can say. Thank you so much for watching the Charlie Tolhurst show tonight. Hope you've all enjoyed the show. And we'll be back again next week to round up more news from the world of politics, sport, and many other destinations. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care. And good night.